Commander Haiyan Wu stood in the observation gallery of the Galactic Council chambers, watching as representatives from hundreds of alien species filled the vast amphitheater below. He had been to Axis Prime 3 times before, always for routine trade negotiations or diplomatic ceremonies. Today felt different. The emergency session had been called with only 12 hours' notice, and no one would tell him why. Beside him, Ji-1 adjusted her formal diplomatic robes and frowned. She had worked at the council for 5 years, longer than any other human diplomat. "Something is wrong," she whispered. "The chamber guards won't look at me." The Velusian ambassador left the building when he saw me coming. Haiyan Wu watched the assembled aliens take their seats. Creatures of every imaginable shape and size filled the tiered platforms. Some breathed methane, sealed in environmental suits. Others floated in tanks of liquid. A few existed as pure energy, contained in crystalline matrices. Humanity had been part of this grand community for 70 years, ever since first contact. They were the newest members, still learning the complex protocols and ancient traditions that governed galactic civilization. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the chamber. From the central platform, a being of living crystal rose into view. Velthur, the supreme arbiter of the Galactic Council, was ancient beyond measure. Light refracted through their body in rainbow patterns, creating a hypnotic display. When Velthur spoke, their voice resonated in every language simultaneously, translated by technology woven into the chamber itself. "We gather in crisis," Velthur announced. "A threat has been identified. Evidence has been compiled. A decision must be made." Haiyan Wu felt his chest tighten. Ji-1 gripped the railing of the observation gallery. Below them, a holographic display activated, showing images of human colony ships, human settlements, human military vessels. A murmur rippled through the assembled aliens. "The species known as humanity has been observed and analyzed," Velthur continued. "Their expansion rate exceeds all established norms. In 70 years, they have claimed 17 worlds. They reproduce at alarming rates. Their military grows with each passing year." The hologram shifted, showing human soldiers in training, research facilities, experimental weapons. Most concerning are their biological capabilities. Humans require no genetic modification to survive in diverse environments. They adapt. They heal. They endure conditions that would kill most species. Haiyan Wu wanted to shout, to defend his people, but protocol forbade observers from speaking. He could only watch as the evidence mounted. Video footage showed human scientists conducting genetic experiments, though Haiyan Wu recognized them as medical research. Images of military bases appeared, though these were defensive installations protecting isolated colonies from pirate raids. "The historical records are clear," Velthur said. Their crystalline form pulsed with somber light. 50,000 years ago, the progenitors nearly destroyed galactic civilization. They spread without restraint. They absorbed other cultures. They refused to accept limits. The progenitors were stopped, but at terrible cost. We vowed never to allow such a threat to emerge again. The hologram changed, showing ancient ruins and archaeological records. Haiyan Wu had seen these before. The progenitors were legendary, a mysterious species that had vanished long before any modern civilization arose. Their technology still dotted the galaxy, incomprehensible and dormant. "Humanity bears the markers," Velthur declared. Genetic analysis confirms significant overlap with progenitor biology. They are either descendants or a parallel evolution. Either way, they represent a Class 7 extinction threat to galactic stability. The Council must act. Zuan's hand found Haiyan Wu's arm, squeezing hard enough to hurt. He understood her fear. A Class 7 designation meant only one thing: containment or elimination. The evidence has been reviewed by all member species, Valther said. We now vote. Should humanity be quarantined to their home system and prevented from further expansion? All in favor, signal now. Lights began appearing across the chamber, thousands of them, each representing a species voting yes. Haiyan Wu counted desperately, hoping for dissent, but the lights kept coming. 3 abstentions appeared, then nothing else. The vote was unanimous, except for those 3. The motion carries, Valther announced. Humanity is hereby declared a restricted species. All human vessels will be recalled to Sol system. All human colonies beyond Sol will be evacuated. A blockade will be established. Any attempt to breach quarantine will be met with military force. Human representatives have 48 hours to begin evacuation procedures. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds. Some species celebrated. Others remained silent. Haiyan Wu felt the world spinning around him. 48 hours. 17 colonies. Millions of human lives scattered across dozens of light years. G-1 pulled him toward the exit. We have to warn Earth. We have to get ahead of this. They ran through the corridors of the council complex, past alien beings who now looked at them with suspicion or pity. The human embassy was in lockdown when they arrived, surrounded by council security forces. Ambassador Park, the senior human official on Axis Prime, was arguing with a towering insectoid guard. This is outrageous, Park shouted. We have rights under council law. Council law no longer applies to restricted species, the guard replied, its mandibles clicking. You have 48 hours. Use them wisely. Haiyan Wu pushed past the crowd. Ambassador, we need to send a warning to Earth immediately. Park's face was pale. Communication arrays are already jammed. Nothing is getting through council-controlled space. He looked at Haiyan Wu with desperate hope. But you came here in a military courier ship, didn't you? Fast, independent systems? Haiyan Wu nodded. The Quicksilver. She's docked at the civilian port. Then go, Park said. Get to Earth before the blockade fleet arrives. Warn them. Give us time to prepare. He gripped Haiyan Wu's shoulder. You're our only chance. 20 minutes later, Haiyan Wu and G1 were aboard the Quicksilver, pushing the ship's engines beyond safe limits. The small courier vessel screamed out of Axis Prime's orbital space, accelerating toward the jump point that would take them toward human space. Alarms blared. Contacts, G1 called from the sensor station. 6 Council patrol ships moving to intercept. Hold on, Haiyan Wu said, his hands flying across the controls. The Quicksilver was built for speed, not combat. She dove toward the planet's atmosphere, using gravity to slingshot around. Weapons fire lanced past them, energy bolts that could have vaporized their ship. They broke free, jumping into faster-than-light travel with seconds to spare. But as they accelerated toward Earth, Haiyan Wu's sensors picked up something that made his blood run cold. The long-range scanners showed a massive fleet assembling near the galactic core. Thousands of ships. Tens of thousands. Every major species contributing vessels to the blockade force. He calculated the timeline. 2 weeks. Earth had 2 weeks before the siege began. Haiyan Wu recorded a single message and fired it ahead on a tight beam transmission, hoping it would reach Earth before they did. The message contained one word, spoken in a voice he barely recognized as his own. Prepare. The Quicksilver raced through the darkness between stars, carrying 2 humans and the weight of their species' survival. Behind them, the galaxy assembled its greatest military force in 50,000 years. Ahead lay Earth, unaware that the peaceful age of exploration had ended, and the fight for humanity's existence was about to begin. The war room beneath Geneva was carved from solid rock. Built during Earth's early space age, when humanity still feared nuclear annihilation. Now it served a darker purpose. Admiral Taeyang stood before a holographic display showing the Sol system and the massive fleet gathering at its edge. 10,000 alien warships, maybe more. The count kept rising as new vessels arrived through jump points. President Daeyun sat at the head of the conference table, her face calm despite the catastrophic news. Around her sat the leaders of Earth's government and military. Hyun Woo had arrived 6 hours ago, exhausted from the desperate flight from Axis Prime. He had delivered his warning. But now there was nothing to do but wait. "Show me the numbers again," Dayin said quietly. Taeyang manipulated the hologram. Earth Defense Fleet consists of 47 capital ships, 200 cruisers, and approximately 800 smaller vessels. Total, 1,047 ships. He paused. The Council blockade fleet currently numbers 9,800 vessels, with more arriving every hour. We are outnumbered approximately 10 to 1, assuming no more ships join them. "And our colonies?" Daiyun asked. "We have begun evacuations, but there is not enough time. 17 colonies, 15 million people. Even if we had a month, we could not move them all." Taeyang's expression was grim. The colonies each have small defense forces, perhaps 20 ships each. They will fight, but they cannot win. A junior officer entered the room and handed a datapad to Sujin, Earth's chief science officer. She read it quickly, her eyes widening. "Madam President, we are receiving a transmission from the Council fleet. They are demanding our surrender." "Put it on screen," Daeyun ordered. A hologram shifted to show Velther's crystalline form. The Supreme Arbiter spoke without preamble. "Humanity must surrender. All military assets immediately. Your ships will be decommissioned. Your colonies will be evacuated. You will remain within Sol System under permanent observation. Any resistance will result in military action. You had 72 hours to comply." The transmission ended. Silence filled the war room. Daiyun looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some showed fear. Others showed anger. All waited for her decision. "If we surrender, what happens to us?" asked Hai Jin, the intelligence officer who had analyzed Council communications during Hyun Woo's journey home. Taeyang pulled up historical data. Based on Council records, restricted species are confined to their home systems indefinitely. They are allowed minimal trade, but no expansion. Some have been quarantined for thousands of years. "That is not life," Daiyun said softly. "That is a cage." She stood, placing her hands on the table. Humanity did not crawl out of caves and cross oceans and reach for the stars just to be locked in a box. "We will not surrender." "Then we fight," Taeyang said. "And we will lose." "Perhaps," Daiyun replied. "But we will fight anyway. Buy as much time as possible. Evacuate who we can. Make them regret this decision." 2 days later, the Council delivered their answer. The blockade tightened around Sol System, cutting off all jump points. But they also sent a fleet to the outer colonies, starting with the furthest settlements. Captain Minho, Hyun Woo's younger brother, commanded the colony defense force at New Harmony, a mining settlement in a distant asteroid belt. Minho stood on the bridge of his ship, the Defiant, watching 43 other vessels form up around him. They were outmatched and outgunned. The Council was sending 300 ships to secure New Harmony. But Minho had advantages they did not. He knew every rock in this asteroid field, every hiding spot, every dangerous crossing. "All ships execute scatter pattern Delta," Minho ordered. The human fleet dispersed into the asteroids, disappearing from sensors. The Council ships arrived minutes later, confidently pushing into the belt. The ambush was brutal and efficient. Human ships emerged from behind asteroids, firing at point-blank range before disappearing again. Council vessels, built for open space combat, struggled to maneuver in the dense field. They fired wildly, often hitting asteroids or each other. Minho's forces struck and vanished like ghosts, using the terrain as both weapon and shield. For 6 hours, the battle raged. When it finally ended, New Harmony's defense force had lost 9 ships. The Council fleet had lost over 300. Not a single Council vessel remained operational. The survivors retreated, damaged and demoralized. The victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. No one had ever inflicted such casualties on a Council military operation. Species that had been certain of humanity's swift defeat began to whisper questions. If humans could win against such odds, what else were they capable of? Back on Earth, Su-Jin worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing data that Hai-Jin had uncovered in intercepted Council transmissions. What she found changed everything. "Madam President," Su-Jin said, pulling up genetic comparisons on the hologram, "I have discovered something impossible. Human DNA contains markers that match the progenitors exactly. Not similar, identical. We are not just related to them. We are them." Dayun stared at the data. How is this possible? The progenitors vanished 50,000 years ago. They did not vanish, Hai-Jin said, entering the room with her own findings. I have decrypted classified Council archives. The progenitors were hunted. The early Council species feared them, so they waged a war of extinction. They killed billions. But some progenitors escaped and hid on a remote world, deliberately primitive, deliberately isolated. They called it Earth. We have been living in a prison all along, Dayun whispered. They put our ancestors on Earth and hoped we would stay there forever. Su-Jin pulled up more data. The progenitors left technology hidden across the galaxy. Ruins, devices, knowledge. But only their descendants could activate it. Only humans. They left us a legacy, waiting for the day we would need it. Where? Dayun demanded. Where is this technology? Mars, Su-Jin said. Under Olympus Mons, there is a progenitor facility that has been dormant for 50 millennia. I believe we can activate it. Taeyang immediately organized an expedition. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel traveled to Mars under heavy escort. They descended deep into the ancient volcano, following readings that Su-Jin's team had detected. At the bottom, they found a chamber filled with devices beyond comprehension. When the human scientists entered, the technology awoke. Lights blazed to life. Machinery hummed. A voice spoke in every language humanity had ever used, welcoming them home. The facility contained shield generators, advanced weapons, power systems, and manufacturing technology. Everything the progenitors had built, preserved, and waiting. Within days, human ships were being retrofitted with shields that could withstand Council weapons. Weapons that could pierce Council defenses. The Council's blockade around Mars became humanity's first target. Taeyang led a strike force of 30 ships, all equipped with progenitor technology. The battle was swift and decisive. Council vessels that had seemed invincible were overwhelmed. Human shields held against their weapons. Human guns cut through their armor. Mars was liberated. 2 outer colonies were freed. The tide had begun to turn. Velther contacted Dune again, this time without the confident superiority of before. We can end this, the Arbiter said. Humanity may keep the 17 worlds you currently occupy. No more expansion. No more growth. Accept these terms, and we will withdraw. Dayun looked at the alien leader with pity. You do not understand. You never have. Humanity does not fight for territory or resources. We fight for the freedom to choose our own path. We will not be caged, not by you, not by anyone. Then you choose extinction, Velther said. No, Dayun replied. We choose to fight for something better. And you will see, Arbiter, that humanity is not alone in this desire. The transmission ended. Within hours, 3 council species publicly withdrew from the blockade, refusing to fight against humanity any longer. They had watched the battles. They had seen human courage and resourcefulness. More importantly, they had begun to question the council's authority. The war had escalated beyond a simple quarantine. It had become a galactic civil war with humanity at its center. And the galaxy would never be the same. Jisung had spent 20 years studying progenitor ruins scattered across the galaxy. He was a xenarchaeologist, fascinated by the ancient species that had mysteriously vanished. Now, standing in the chamber beneath Olympus Mons, he realized that every assumption he had made was wrong. The progenitors had not vanished. They had been murdered. He ran his hands over the walls, feeling symbols carved into the metal. The facility's computer systems had activated when humans entered, but much of the data was corrupted or encrypted. Jisung worked tirelessly to recover what he could. What he found made him sick with anger. "President Dayun, you need to see this," he said, transmitting his findings to Earth. In Geneva, Dayun watched the holographic playback of ancient records. She saw the progenitors as they had been: explorers, scientists, builders. They traveled the galaxy, meeting new species, sharing knowledge, creating alliances. They were peaceful but unstoppable in their curiosity. They wanted to see everything, learn everything, experience everything. The early council species grew afraid. The progenitors were too adaptable, too friendly, too successful. They did not conquer, but they spread. They did not force their culture on others, but their ideas were attractive. Other species wanted to join them, to learn from them, to be like them. They saw it as cultural contamination, Jaesum explained. The council species had rigid hierarchies, strict traditions. The progenitors offered something different: freedom, equality, cooperation. The council decided this was a threat to galactic stability. The records showed the war. It lasted 3 centuries. The progenitors fought back, but they were outnumbered. One by one, their worlds fell. Billions died. The survivors fled to the edges of the galaxy, to remote systems that the council would never think to search. Earth was one of several refuge worlds, Jisung said. The progenitors hid there, abandoned their technology, lived as primitives. They hoped the council would forget about them. And for 50,000 years, it worked. We evolved, changed, adapted to Earth, but we never lost the core of what made the progenitors dangerous: our ability to bring different people together. Deung felt tears on her cheeks. Her ancestors had survived genocide only to face it again. How many other refuge worlds were there? Unknown, Jason replied. But the records suggest dozens. We may not be the only progenitor descendants out there. Across the galaxy, Commander Youngmi faced her own crisis. She commanded the colony ship Horizon, trapped behind council lines with 20,000 colonists aboard. The ship was unarmed, designed for transport and settlement, not combat. When the council blockade had closed, Youngmi had been cut off from Earth, unable to reach home. But she was not helpless. Youngmi had noticed something interesting about the council forces surrounding her ship. They were not unified. Some species seemed enthusiastic about the quarantine. Others seemed reluctant, even sympathetic. She began reaching out through back channels, carefully making contact. A species called the Talvarians responded first. They were insectoid beings, known for their mathematical genius. Their representative, a translator named Crix, contacted Youngmi secretly. "Our government voted to support the quarantine," Crix said. "But many of us disagreed. We have studied humanity's history. Your mathematics, your art, your philosophy. We find it ... inspiring. Then help us," Youngmi said. Not with weapons, but with information. Tell us what is really happening. Crix and others like him became a network of informants. Young me learned that the council was fracturing. Younger species, those who had joined the galactic community more recently, questioned the wisdom of the war. They had traded with humans, learned from humans, made friends with humans. Now they were being told to treat humanity as enemies. More species began to defect openly. The Mirans, aquatic species known for their poetry, withdrew their ships from the blockade. The Solon Collective, a hive mind of small creatures, declared neutrality. The Viridian Republic, a democratic society of plant-based beings, openly criticized the Council's decision. On Earth, Admiral Taeyang coordinated with these new allies. The war was changing. It was no longer humans against the galaxy. It was becoming a conflict between those who wanted freedom and those who wanted control. The turning point came when Jae-sung discovered the Stargate network. Deep in a progenitor facility, he found schematics for devices that could bend space itself. The progenitors had built gates throughout the galaxy, hidden and dormant. These gates could transport ships instantly across thousands of light years, bypassing normal space travel entirely. The Council does not know about these, Jae-sung said excitedly. Or if they do, they cannot activate them. Only progenitor DNA can interface with the systems. Sujin immediately understood the implications. We could connect our colonies directly to Earth. We could move fleets anywhere in the galaxy in seconds. This changes everything. But Taeyang saw a different possibility. We could use these gates to strike at the Council's military bases. We could end this war in days. The discussion that followed was heated. Tactical Officer Kyung-soo supported Taeyang's plan. We have lost thousands of people already. Every day this war continues, more die. A swift, decisive strike would save lives in the long run. Hyan-woo argued against it. If we attack the Council directly, we become the aggressors. We prove them right. They say we are a threat, that we will conquer and destroy. If we use this technology for war, we confirm their worst fears. Dayun listened to both sides. The decision weighed heavily on her. She could end the war immediately, but at the cost of humanity's soul. Or she could choose the harder path and risk everything. She made her choice. Activate the Stargate network, Dayun ordered. But we will not use it for war. We will open it to everyone. Any species, friend or enemy, can use these gates freely. We will share this technology with the entire galaxy. Taeyang looked shocked. Madam President, this gives away our greatest advantage. Yes, Dayun agreed. But it shows the galaxy who we really are. We are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We are builders and sharers. Let the Council explain why they want to quarantine a species that freely gives such gifts. The activation of the first Stargate sent waves of energy across the galaxy. Scientists from hundreds of species detected it immediately. Sujin broadcast the specifications openly, explaining how the gates worked and inviting everyone to use them. The effect was immediate and dramatic. A journey that once took months now took minutes. Isolated colonies suddenly had access to trade and communication. Resources flowed freely. Ideas spread rapidly. The galaxy contracted, bringing distant species into close contact for the first time. Some Council species tried to destroy the gates, but more rallied to defend them. The economic and social benefits were too great to ignore. Even species that had supported the quarantine began to question it. When they saw what humanity was offering, Velther contacted Dayun again. The Supreme Arbiter's crystalline form seemed dimmed, less brilliant than before. You are destroying the order we have maintained for 50,000 years, Velther said. No, Dayun replied calmly. We are revealing that your order was built on fear and control. The progenitors threatened you not with weapons, but with ideas. Ideas of cooperation, equality, freedom. You killed them for it. Now their descendants offer you the same choice: evolve or become irrelevant. We will stop you, Velther said. But there was no conviction in their voice. You cannot stop an idea whose time has come, Dian replied. The galaxy is changing, Arbiter. You can change with it or be left behind. More species defected from the Council. The blockade around Earth crumbled as former enemies became neutral or even allies. Young Mi's horizon was freed, escorted to safety by Talvarian and Miran ships. Across the galaxy, human colonies that had been under siege were suddenly protected by unexpected friends. The Council's founding members met in emergency session on Axis Prime. They were the oldest species, the ones who had built galactic civilization on their terms. Now they faced a crisis unlike any in their history. Half the galaxy was in open rebellion against their authority. Velther knew that the final confrontation was coming. The Council would make one last attempt to reassert control. And humanity, with its growing alliance, would be ready. The age of the old order was ending. What would replace it remained to be seen. 6 months had passed since humanity activated the Stargate network. The galaxy was unrecognizable. Trade routes that once took months to travel now took hours. Species that had never met were suddenly neighbors. The economic boom was unprecedented. Worlds that had been isolated for millennia were now connected to galactic civilization. But the war continued. The Council's core members refused to accept the new reality. They commanded what remained of their military forces to prepare for a final assault on humanity and its allies. Nearly 40% of galactic species had openly sided with humanity. Another 30% remained neutral. The remaining 30% still supported the Council, whether from genuine belief or fear of change. Admiral Taeyang stood in the command center on Earth, coordinating with allied fleets across dozens of systems. Human and alien officers worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of common cause. The planned assault on Axis Prime was the most complex. Military operation in galactic history. Tactical Officer Kyung-Soo had designed the battle plan. He was young but brilliant, able to see patterns others missed. The Council's forces are concentrated around their founding worlds, he explained, manipulating the holographic display. They expect us to attack their military installations. Instead, we strike at Axis Prime directly. We bring our fleets to their doorstep and dare them to fight in front of the entire galaxy. It is risky, Hyan-Woo said. He had been promoted to fleet commander after his actions during the war's early days. If they have hidden defenses, we could lose everything. They do not, Kyung-Soo assured him. Axis Prime has always been a diplomatic center, not a fortress. They never imagined anyone would attack it. Their arrogance is our advantage. Medical Officer Yoon-ji entered the command center carrying a data pad. She had been working on something that could change the war more than any weapon. Admiral, I need to share my findings with the President immediately. They gathered in Da-Yoon's office. Yoon-ji pulled up her research, showing molecular structures and biological analysis. I have been studying human immune systems compared to other species, she explained. What I found is remarkable. Humans can process and neutralize almost any toxin or pathogen. Our immune systems learn and adapt constantly. We know this, Da-Yoon said gently. It is why humans can eat such a wide variety of foods and survive in diverse environments. Yes, but there is more, Yoon-ji continued. I discovered that human blood plasma can be synthesized into a universal medical serum. It works on dozens of alien species. Diseases that have plagued the Talvarians for centuries can be cured with modified human antibodies. The Moran plague that killed millions last year could have been stopped with human-derived medicine. The implications were staggering. Dayun immediately ordered the research to be shared openly with all species, enemy, and ally alike. Within days, human medical teams were working with alien doctors across the galaxy. Thousands of lives were saved. Species that had suffered from incurable diseases for generations suddenly had hope. The propaganda value was immense, but that was not why Dayun did it. She genuinely wanted to help, and the galaxy noticed. Commander Youngmi continued building the alliance from her position in the outer territories. Her ship, the Horizon, had become a symbol of cooperation. Her crew was mixed now, humans working alongside Talvarians, Mirans, and dozens of other species. They called themselves the Unity Fleet. One incident made Youngmi famous across the galaxy. A council dreadnought, the Pride of Vareth, suffered a catastrophic reactor failure during a patrol. The ship was dying, its crew of 3,000 facing certain death. Youngmi's fleet was the closest to respond. Her tactical officer hesitated. "Commander, that is an enemy vessel. They have been hunting us for months. They are people in danger," Youngmi replied. "We will help them." The Horizon and its escort ships raced to the stricken dreadnought. Human engineers worked alongside alien crew to stabilize the reactor. Human medical teams treated the injured. When the crisis was over, Youngmi had saved 3,000 lives, including the ship's captain, a proud Varathian warrior named Cole. Cole stood on the bridge of his repaired ship, facing Youngmi. "You saved us. We were your enemies. You were people in trouble," Youngmi said simply. "That is all that matters." Cole knelt, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. "I will not fight humans again. The Council orders me to war, but I cannot raise weapons against those who showed such mercy." Youngmi helped him to his feet. "Then join us. Help us build something better." The Pride of Vareth defected that day, bringing 3,000 former enemy soldiers to humanity's cause. The story spread like fire across the galactic networks. A human commander had saved her enemies, asking nothing in return. More defections followed. Pilot Eziel became another symbol of the new era. She was young, barely 25, but she flew with a mixed-species squadron that had won a dozen battles. Her co-pilot was Talvarian. Her gunner was Miran. Her engineer was a floating entity from the Solix Collective. They called themselves the Starbreakers, and they were the most decorated unit in the Allied forces. Eziel's squadron rescued a Council transport that had been caught in an asteroid field. The transport carried civilians, families of Council military officers. Instead of taking them prisoner, Eziel escorted them to safety and released them with a simple message. "We are not your enemy. Your leaders are afraid, but you do not have to be." The families returned to Council space with stories of human kindness. Seeds of doubt spread through the Council's population. Back in the progenitor facility on Mars, Jisung made his final discovery. He found records of the gate network's full capabilities. The progenitors had built hundreds of gates, connecting every major system in the galaxy. But more than that, they had included instructions, a message for their descendants. "To those who come after," the message read, "remember that our greatest strength was never technology or weapons. It was our ability to see others not as threats, but as friends we had not yet met. Build bridges, not walls. Share, do not hoard. Forgive, do not hate. The galaxy is large enough for all who wish to live in peace." Jae-shung shared this message with Dayun. She wept when she read it. Her ancestors had died trying to live by these principles. Now their descendants would honor that sacrifice. The Council made its move. Velthar sent an ultimatum to all species: withdraw support from humanity or face economic sanctions and military action. It was a desperate gambit, an attempt to reassert control through fear. The response shocked them. Species after species publicly reaffirmed their alliance with humanity. Even some council members refused to comply with the ultimatum. The council's authority collapsed in real time. Velthar prepared for the final confrontation. The council gathered its remaining forces around Axis Prime. Over 5,000 ships, all loyal to the old order. They would fight to preserve their way of life. Admiral Taeyong assembled the Allied fleet. 7,000 ships from dozens of species, united by common cause. They would travel to Axis Prime not to destroy, but to demand change. President Dayun would accompany them. She would go to Axis Prime in person, unarmed, to address the council directly. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but she insisted. "If I ask others to risk their lives for peace," she said, "I must risk mine as well." The Allied fleet gathered at the Stargate. Human ships flew alongside former enemies, now friends. Hyan Wu commanded the vanguard. Young Mi led the Unity fleet. Isiel and the Starbreakers would escort the President's shuttle .EU-NG loaded medical supplies, ready to treat wounded from both sides. Kyung-Soo coordinated the operation, hoping it would end without bloodshed. Ji-Sung stayed on Mars, monitoring the progenitor systems, ready to provide whatever help he could. As the fleet prepared to jump, Su-Jin activated a galaxy-wide broadcast. Every species, friend and enemy, would watch what happened next. The age of secrets was over. The fleet jumped through the Stargate. Emerging at Axis Prime, thousands of ships appeared in formation. But they came in peace formation, weapons powered down. Shields at minimum. President Dayun transmitted a simple message to the Council and the watching galaxy. "We come to talk. We come to build. We come to show you a better way. Will you listen?" The Allied fleet hung in space around Axis Prime, 7,000 ships from dozens of worlds. They had come in peace formation, but the Council forces responded with weapons charged and shields raised. 5,000 warships surrounded the planet, ready to defend the old order to the death. President Dayun sat in her shuttle, surrounded by a small security detail led by Hyan Wu. They were preparing to land at the Council chambers when alarms blared. Council ships were powering weapons, targeting her shuttle specifically. "They are going to fire," the pilot said, fear in his voice. "Hold position," Dayun ordered calmly. "They will not fire. Not while the entire galaxy watches." Su-Jin's broadcast was being received by billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Every screen showed the Allied fleet, the Council forces, and the small shuttle carrying Earth's president toward what might be her death. The galaxy held its breath. A transmission came through from Velthar. "Turn back, President Dayun. You are not welcome here." "I come unarmed to speak truth," Dayun replied. "If you fire on me, you prove everything I have said about the Council. You show the galaxy that you rule through fear, not wisdom." Velthar hesitated. The moment stretched. Then, slowly, the weapons targeting her shuttle powered down. "You may land, but know that words will not save you if you threaten us." Dayun's shuttle descended through Axis Prime's atmosphere. She could see the great city below, towers of crystal and metal that had stood for thousands of years. The heart of galactic civilization, built on principles that she had come to challenge. Inside the Council chambers, the atmosphere was tense. Representatives from the founding species filled the ancient amphitheater. They were the ones who had built this civilization, who had ruled for millennia. Now a human, a descendant of the progenitors they had tried to erase, stood before them. Dayun walked to the central platform alone. No guards, no weapons, no armor. Just a woman with a message. "I stand here not as your enemy," she began, "but as someone who wants to understand. You declared war on humanity because you feared us. You said we were a threat to galactic stability. I ask you now, what have we done to justify your fear? A murmur ran through the chamber. Velther responded, "You expand without limit. You adapt without control. You absorb other cultures. You are the progenitors returned." "Yes," Dayun agreed. "We are their descendants. But did the progenitors ever attack you? Did they ever conquer your worlds or enslave your people?" Silence. "No," Dayun continued. "They offered friendship and knowledge. They built things and shared them. Their crime was being different from you. Their crime was showing other species that there were alternatives to your hierarchies and traditions. So you killed them. Billions of innocent beings murdered because they threatened your power. They threatened stability." One of the council members shouted. "They threatened your control," Dayun corrected. "There is a difference. For 50,000 years, you have told yourselves that the progenitors were dangerous, that you had no choice. But the truth is simpler. You were afraid of change." In orbit above, the standoff continued. But something was happening among the council forces. Ships were breaking formation, moving away from Axis Prime. Crews were refusing orders. The broadcast of Dayun's speech was reaching everyone, and her words were resonating. Inside the council chambers, hardliners were organizing. A group of extremists had decided that Dayun must not leave Axis Prime alive. If she died here, humanity would respond with violence, and the war could continue. They moved through the building's service corridors. Heading toward the chamber with weapons drawn, Haiyan Wu detected them first. His security team was monitoring all access points. "We have hostiles converging on the president's location," he reported to Admiral Taeyang. "Go," Taeyang ordered. "Protect her." Haiyan Wu and his team raced through the corridors. They were human and alien both, working together. A Talvarian named Rix ran beside him. A Miran floated ahead, scouting. They encountered the assassins in a grand hallway lined with statues of council founders. The fight was brief, but intense. Haiyan Wu's team was outnumbered, but they had surprise and determination. They could not let the assassins reach Dayun. More importantly, they fought to capture, not kill. Every enemy they disabled was disarmed and restrained, not executed. One of the assassins, wounded and cornered, stared at Haiyan Wu in confusion. "Why do you not kill us?" "We tried to murder your leader." "Because killing you would make us like you," Haiyan Wu replied. "We do not want victory through violence. We want peace through understanding." In the council chamber, Dayun continued speaking. "I know some of you still fear us. I know change is frightening. But I offer you this. Judge us by our actions, not your fears. We opened the Stargate network to everyone. We shared our medical discoveries freely. We saved our enemies when they were in danger. These are the actions of the species you call a threat." Velther stood, their crystalline form pulsing with agitated colors. "You speak well, human, but words are easy. How do we know you will not change once you have power? How do we know you will not become oppressors yourselves?" "You do not know," Dayun admitted. "We could become tyrants. We could abuse the power we are gaining. But that is true of any species, including yours. The difference is that we are willing to be held accountable. We propose not human rule, but true democracy. Every species, regardless of age or power, gets an equal voice, including yours." "Impossible," Velther said. "Some species are not ready for such responsibility." "Then teach them," Dayun replied. "Help them grow. That is what civilization should do. Lift everyone up, not keep some down to maintain your position." The attempted assassination was discovered. Word spread through the chamber. Some council members were outraged that extremists had tried to kill Dayun. Others were angry that the attempt had failed. The council was fracturing in real time. Velther made a decision. The Supreme Arbiter called for an emergency vote, something that had not happened in 5,000 years. We will vote on the Council's future. Should we continue as we have, or should we dissolve and form a new federation based on equality? The vote was not unanimous. Many of the founding species voted to maintain the old system, but more voted for change. The Council, as it had existed for 50,000 years, was dissolved. In its place, a new federation would be formed, with representatives elected democratically from every member species. Velthur approached Dayun after the vote. "We have lost everything we built." "No," Dayun said gently. "You have let go of control, but you have gained something better: partnership. Your species will still be respected, still be valued. But now you will be equals, not masters." "I do not know how to be equal," Velthur admitted. "We will teach each other," Dayun replied. "That is what friends do." In orbit, the Council forces stood down. Admiral Taeyang ordered the Allied fleet to do the same. For the first time in 6 months, no one was shooting. The war was over. The transition was not easy. Building a new galactic government took years. There were setbacks, arguments, and difficult compromises. But slowly, the Federation took shape. Every species, from the ancient founders to the newest members, had a voice. Hyun-woo retired from active military service and joined the Federation security force. He worked alongside beings who had once been enemies. They patrolled the space lanes together, protecting all species equally. He and Velthur became unlikely friends. The crystalline arbiter and the human commander, finding common ground in their shared desire for peace. Commander Youngmi's Horizon became the first official Federation colony ship. She carried mixed crews to new worlds, establishing settlements where multiple species lived together from the start. Her success inspired others. Within 5 years, there were dozens of mixed species colonies across the galaxy. Pilot Izial taught at the new Federation Military Academy. Her students were human, Talvarian, Miran, and dozens of other species. They learned not just combat tactics, but also diplomacy, cultural sensitivity, and the history of the war that had changed everything. Izial made sure they understood the cost of conflict and the value of peace. Jae-sum led archaeological expeditions to progenitor sites across the galaxy, funded by the Federation. Every discovery was shared freely. The progenitors' technology became the foundation for a new age of prosperity. Their Stargate network expanded, connecting even the most remote systems. Medical Officer Yunji's universal serum saved millions of lives. She opened hospitals that served all species, training doctors from hundreds of worlds. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were cured. Life expectancy increased across the galaxy. Tactical Officer Kyung-soo became a professor of strategy, teaching a new generation how to think creatively and solve problems without violence. His students went on to become diplomats, negotiators, and peacemakers. Admiral Taeyang retired to write his memoirs. His book, The War Nobody Won, became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. In it, he argued that humanity's greatest weapon was never their technology or their courage, but their stubborn refusal to hate their enemies. President Dae-jung served one more term, then stepped down. She returned to colony administration, helping establish new settlements and ensuring that the ideals of the Federation were lived, not just spoken. She lived to see the galaxy transformed. Velthur, no longer Supreme Arbiter, worked with G1 on the Federation's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. They traveled to worlds that had suffered under the old council system, listening to grievances and helping communities heal. The former ruler and the human diplomat became partners in the work of justice. 5 years after the war ended, a ceremony was held on Earth. Representatives from every Federation species gathered to unveil a monument. It stood in Geneva, where the War Council had once met in desperation. The monument was simple, a circle of statues representing different species, all holding hands, all looking toward the stars. The inscription read, "The galaxy declared war on humanity to contain a threat." They discovered instead that humanity's power was not in weapons or technology, but in the simple act of treating strangers as friends they had not yet met. Here we remember the cost of fear and celebrate the rewards of trust. On a frontier world far from Earth, human and alien children played together in a park. They did not know they were supposed to be different. They did not know their parent species had once tried to destroy each other. They only knew that they were friends, learning and growing together under alien suns. Above them, ships from 100 worlds passed through the Stargate, traveling routes that connected the entire galaxy. The journey that once took months now took minutes. Distant species were now neighbors. The galaxy had contracted, bringing everyone closer. An elderly Velther stood on a balcony overlooking the park, watching the children play. Beside them stood G1, now white-haired but still energetic. "We were wrong about so many things," Velther said softly. "Yes," G1 agreed. "But you were brave enough to admit it and change. That is what matters. Do you think the galaxy is better now?" Velther asked. G1 smiled, watching a human child help an alien friend climb a tree. "Look around you. What do you think?" Velther's crystalline form pulsed with colors that, in their species, indicated contentment and hope. "I think we feared humans would destroy our galaxy. I never imagined they would save it by showing us we were destroying it ourselves." The sun set over the frontier world, painting the sky in colors that no single species had words to describe. But every being who saw it understood its beauty, and that was enough. The galaxy had learned that differences were not threats, but gifts, that strength came through unity, and that the future belonged not to the powerful, but to the kind. Humanity had won the war not through superior weapons or tactics, but by refusing to become what their enemies feared. They had shown the galaxy that there was another way, a better way, and in doing so, they had transformed not just themselves, but everyone around them. The age of the Council was over. The age of the Federation had begun. And across 1,000 worlds, beings looked to the stars with hope instead of fear, knowing that whatever challenges came next, they would face them together.